Hello and welcome to another edition of the Reality Report on Freedom.tv. I'm Gary Franchi. My, how soon we forget. Just over a year ago, we experienced the total disregard of Congressman Ron Paul by the entire staff at the Fox News Network. Carl Cameron disrespected him in the debates in front of millions.
Another question about electability. Do you have any, sir? There's always the question as to whether or not you are, in fact, viable.
Sean Hannity laughed in his face after every debate.
Live coverage. We are in the spin room tonight, and joining us now, Texas Congressman and presidential hopeful Ron Paul is back with us. Good to see you, Congressman.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
I got very angry with you tonight.
Oh, my.
I know. We have some agreements
First time?
on the...
Is that first time ever?
No, not the first time ever.
You should be nice to your guests.
Which, of course, resulted in Hannity being chased down the street and assaulted with snowballs.
We're great Americans, and you're not, Ron! You suck, Sean!
Lest we not forget that Glenn Beck, while at Headline News, referred to Ron Paul supporters as terrorists.
While our foreign enemies are the obvious ones, the physical threat may be developing domestically as well. And here's how I got there. As I told you last week, Ron Paul raised over $4 million in one day. That's huge news. His supporters raised the cash on November the 5th to commemorate Guy Fawkes. This guy was a British terrorist who tried to overthrow the government by blowing up Parliament and killing everybody in it. Paul's supporters called the donations, and I'm quoting, a money bomb.
Now orders are coming down from on high not to harass Glenn Beck. So let's connect some dots and expose the media manipulation of the Ron Paul revolution by Council on Foreign Relations member and Fox News owner Rupert Murdoch. How would the elite drive a wedge and steer a portion of us to trust their network again? Let's do a little backtracking and let's get some history here, some perspective. The Ron Paul revolution was largely a web-based, grassroots, bottom-up movement with no particular form. The only goal was to see that Ron Paul's name was everywhere all the time. Wonderful projects were birthed from the grassroots, like the Great Ron Paul Overnight, the Ron Paul Blimp, and of course, the 2 record-breaking money bombs, which now, of course, if you look in every corner of the web, you're going to find someone somewhere throwing another money bomb for their own campaign or website. Now, just as the election came to a close, a new organization called the Campaign for Liberty would be formed to attempt to pull in all of the over 200,000 grassroots supporters from the independent meetup groups. Now, they were largely successful and have since become a formidable 7-figure inside the Beltway powerhouse to be reckoned with. And I am absolutely glad to be one of their supporters. They're doing a great job. But if you let me digress further for just a moment, since the formation of the Campaign for Liberty, organizations who once stood at the core of the Ron Paul revolution, like Aaron Russo's Restore the Republic and Bob Schultz's We the People Foundation, we have experienced a massive decline in donations and grassroots support, leaving the few of us still remaining to constantly beg our memberships for financial support just to keep our lights on and our servers paid for. The most common thing I hear is, sorry, we've already given to the Campaign for Liberty. What are you going to do? I don't know. But back to the question, how would the elite drive a wedge and steer a portion of us to trust their network again? The answer is quite simple. By giving us a show, okay? And then giving that show to someone whose commentary I actually enjoy. The most conservative, constitutionally sound voice on their network, Andrew Napolitano, and they called it Freedom Watch. But here is the kick in the hindquarters. Since the Ron Paul revolutionaries were so active on the web, they could appease the Ron Paul faithful while not selling out to their neocon controllers by making Freedom Watch web-based, okay? Then they could invite all of the players who run in the Ron Paul circles, like Peter Schiff, Rand Paul, Adam Kokesh, Shelley Roche, etc. You could invite them on their show and never rock the boat, while images of Fox and Fox were slowly drilled into all of our heads, and then we began to funnel our desires for coverage to Napolitano's Freedom Watch, rather than slam Hannity and O'Reilly for lack of coverage on our issues. After all, now Fox is paying attention. Hey, there's no need to give our issues primetime coverage. Just tuck us away into their little self-contained corner of the internet. After the trust of Fox within the Ron Paul revolution was reestablished via constant bombarding of their logo and graphics on Freedom Watch, now we were ready to accept their next level of programming, the Glenn Beck Show. Of course, after he had his sit-down with his masters, and the ultimate plan was revealed to him. The plan that I am now revealing to you. Meanwhile, tea parties, town halls were erupting simultaneously, and something had to be done to contain it and control it. Enter Glenn Beck's 9/12 Project and the 9/12 March, controlled by the same bosses who brought you the endless war on terror, warrantless wiretapping, national identification cards with RFID chips, bailouts, body scanners, and of course, the Patriot Act. In the end, and very likely unknowingly, Andrew Napolitano and Freedom Watch were the gateway drug. As for me, I just call it like I see it. Now, coming up on tonight's edition of the Reality Report, Alan Greenspan says the current economic recession is by far the worst in U.S. history. We have the story on how one struggling Midwest city is trying to revive its local economy in a unique way. Plus, riots spread through Greece, and Canadians are ready to eat mouse pigs? Would you? Oh my goodness. Independent correspondent Brooke Kelley reports from the CPAC convention from D.C. last week. We also have the footage from that. Later, we talk directly with Republic Magazine publisher George Shepard about the magazine's newest release and introduce our latest enemy of the state, and also, you know it, the mailbag. So, all that is coming up tonight on the Reality Report. In a speech last week in Washington, former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan said that the current financial crisis was by far the worst in American history, and added that the world economy is facing the greatest financial crisis globally ever, admitting that the economy was in a much more dire state during the Great Depression. Greenspan is concerned that the current crisis will be more harmful because never before had short-term credit literally been withdrawn. Greenspan becomes the latest public figure to express serious concern regarding the state of the economy, joining Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke, former Goldman Sachs Chairman John Whitehead, and former Fannie Mae Chief Credit Officer Edward J. Pinto. Good thing Goldman Sachs, Fannie Mae, and the Fed have had nothing to do with the collapse, right? Unbelievable. In an effort to boost sagging local economies, some cities have decided that the dollar just isn't enough and have begun printing their own currency. The largest city to adopt its own script is Detroit, whose local economy has been spiraling for more than 50 years, epitomized by a 22% unemployment rate. Now, tired of watching neighboring suburbs flourish, a collection of local businesses teamed up with the city and printed Detroit Cheers, the script. Now, this new script is available in $3 denominations. The currency can be exchanged evenly for greenbacks, but can only be spent within city limits. The practice originated during the Great Depression and has already helped local businesses in Ithaca, New York, and much of western Massachusetts. Also looking at developing its own currency within the next year is Piedmont, North Carolina, Brooklyn, New York, and South Bend, Indiana. That will be awesome to see. All right, just maybe back it up by some silver. That'd be great. Now,